Hey everyone, today I will guide you through creating this awesome cartoon style scene. I will cover everything from modeling to coloring, lighting, camera effects and how I put everything together. To make things easier, I have noticed some of you had hard time with my other fast forwarded videos. So I will be uploading two versions, this one and a full unedited or uncut version for those who want to follow along precisely. And make sure to subscribe if you are new here and hit the like button. If you encounter any issues, drop a comment below and I will be happy to help. So without further ado, let's dive in. Let's start with the modeling. I begin with the default cube, scale it down to 0.4 and move it to the center. This forms the main shop part. For the ledge in front of the shop, I extruded the top of the box and added a loop cut on the front side from the top view. After that, I selected the top front faces and extruded along the normal. This extrudes faces in the direction the normal is facing. Then I selected the front edges and moved them inward by pressing G. This moves the edge along the vertices. After that, I snapped the cursor to the middle of the front top edge. You can snap the cursor from vertex mode. Right-clicking while on vertex mode allows you to see the snap functions. I added snap functions to my quick favorite so I can use them from edge or face select mode, as snap functions are shown in both of these modes. Then I scaled the edges using the cursor as the pivot point and beveled the edges. For the other two floors, I duplicate the plane of the top of the first floor and extrude it along the z-axis, with almost the same value as the lower floor. Then for the roof part, I duplicate the part from the second floor and extruded it. After that, I started blocking out the dormer windows. For the roof tiles, I used a simple extruded part as the base and added some loop cuts. I then scaled some of the loop cuts to look like tiles. I didn't add tiles because it would be too much geometry for a toon scene. And those details wouldn't be visible as colors will be flat and not shaded. Since it's a cartoon scene, the building was looking twisted. So I moved some vertices randomly to make it look better. For the windows of the shop, I added some loop cuts and inserted them inward using the extrude along normal. As for the door, if you use extrude along normal, it will leave a part at the front as shown. So I used extrude manifold as it slides all the vertices inward. With this, the base model is done. Now I started working on the details like door, stairs and pipes. For the doors and windows, I created simple models and added extra cube with each of them. Later I used them with Bool tool add-on to add Boolean modifiers. Now for the stairs, I began with simple plane and added 9 loop cuts, creating 10 faces which I used for the staircase. Since the lower floor is 1 meter high, I made 10 stair steps of 0.1 meter height each. Firstly, I extruded all the faces by 0.1 meter in Z-axis. Then deselecting the last one, I extruded with Shift+R. And continuing this process till last step of the staircase. Here I use Shift+R cause it copies the previous action. For the windows, it's the same process of how I made the doors. First I made a copy of the window, then just copied it in the whole scene. I did change some parts so it doesn't look identical. As extra details to the building, I added some loose bricks. It's just simple cubes which I randomly placed with snap to face turned on. Now for the tiles, first I added some loop cuts to the roof and I scaled it so it doesn't look too perfect. Here I selected all the edges in which I wanted to scale. Then I used random deselect. This deselects the edge or faces within the selected area. Random select would have also worked, but it may have selected the bottom part of the object, which I didn't want. Then I went back to face select mode, selected top faces and used random deselect again. Next I duplicated the selected faces and separated them from object by pressing P. After that I added solidify modifier to it. I used repression to separate some faces from each other. With this the tile work is done. Here I did bit of organizing and renaming, as it gets hard to locate objects later. Making pipes was also really easy, as I just used copy of the edges from building and converting them to curve. And in curve data tab, I just added some depth value to it. Now that the main focus building is done, I started working on other buildings. I didn't want to complicate the scene and wanted to keep the main focus to be the front building. For that on the other buildings, I used really simple objects with keeping lower details than the main one. I will be speeding up the process of making the other buildings as it's just same process. Here I used curve to add wires to the scene. For drawing the curve, I used curve draw tool. With this, modeling is done. Now for the lighting, I just use sunlight and a bit of world light. If we change the world color, it changes the scene light and the sky color to that color. But I wanted to change the scene color to solid color and the sky to a gradient color. For this I used each camera ray of light path node. You can use each camera ray as factor to divide the sky color and the scene color with mixed data node. To shift gradient direction, I used mapping and texture coordinate node. You can add them using Ctrl+T if your node wrangler add-on is turned on. For coloring, I used shader to RGB node plugged into the color ramp to control the colors. I used B-spline mode of the color ramp to control the color gradient. In the color ramp I used two colors, one as the main color and the other slightly darker color to represent the shadows. I applied the same technique to all the objects in the scene. This method is simple and effective for achieving the cartoonish look. However, one drawback is that the color ramp is directly connected to the output node, making it challenging to create a dark scene. Here you can see me using simple color palette with low color count. Also I used brighter color for the main building as it's the main focus of the scene, and dull color for the other buildings. For the outlines, I used grease pencil. I started with thin line art. In the modifier tab of the grease pencil, I lowered the thickness to low value as this will give out lines to the whole scene. After that, I added another line art modifier, in which I selected the collection containing my main building and increased the thickness of it. This is to give more emphasis to the main focus building. I duplicate the line art modifier again and switch the mode from collection to scene. This line art will be used with a noise modifier to make the lines look hand-drawn. Additionally, I added a multi-stroke modifier. For the top part of the building, I used brick texture with the same Toon-Shaded. As for the moss and the green parts, I used curve to draw the parts where the moss will be, then used skin modifier to add geometry to it. Now on top of the geometry, I used meatball as particles. After that, I added a plane as image texture of leaves, which I also used as particles. After that, I turned off the line art for the green parts. You can turn off the line art of any objects from its Object Properties tab. At the Object Properties tab, in the line art section, change the uses from Inherit to Exclude. It's the same process for the vines. After that, I colored other buildings with random colors and the scene is done. Now for the compositing, I used lens distortion with Kuwahara node. Kuwahara node polishes the scene a bit more by making it watercolor-like. In the final render, I also used some other nodes on top of it. In the final render, I also used some other nodes on top of it to give lens dart effect to the camera. Here is all the nodes I used. For the lens dart, it's just an image of lens dart multiplied with the glare node. You can watch the full process of how this compositing works in the Boards in Rome channel. He showed many types of Toon-Shaded composition and how it's done.